Okay, so even though we still have a number of people hopping onto the WebEx and the audio, let's go ahead and get started. We have a lot of content to cover today, and we want to leave time at the end for Q&A. So welcome everybody to the Content Marketing ROI NewsCred LinkedIn Webcast. I'm Jamie Pham, and I have on the phone with me Alicianne, and I'll do some introductions in a minute. But first, let's go over some housekeeping items. The first is that this event will be recorded, so if you have to hop off early or you want a copy of the presentation, you'll get one after the event is over. We'll send an email out early next week with all the event materials. The second is that there will be time for Q&A at the end. We're hoping to leave 15 to 20 minutes. We won't be opening up the audio, but if you have a question that you would like either Alicianne or myself to address, just type it into the Q&A box within WebEx, and we'll get to them, hopefully all of them. If not, we'll follow up with the materials at the end. If you are traveling or not on the WebEx, or you have follow-up questions that we did not address or after the event, you can find us on Twitter. My handle is JamieLynn09. Alicianne has @NewsCred, and we're using the hashtag LinkedIn content for today. So let's do some introductions. My name is Jamie Pham. My title at LinkedIn is Content Marketing Evangelist. It's a pretty fun title. It's a pretty fun role. But basically, I am able to consult some of our largest content marketers on LinkedIn to leverage the full LinkedIn content ecosystem and to reach the professional audience on LinkedIn in a very relevant and engaging way. And I have with me today Alicianne Rand, who is the VP of Marketing at NewsCred. NewsCred is one of our content partners, but they're also a very active and efficient advertiser on LinkedIn using sponsored updates. And so that's what Alicianne is here to talk about today. So I will turn it over to you.
All right, great. Thank you so much, first of all, for having me. I'm really excited and honored to be here today. And hopefully I will share a lot of great advice for all of you to be able to build out your own content marketing strategy and really learn how to scale it. So today I'm going to talk about how NewsCred does content marketing, or more specifically, how a content marketing company does content marketing. And so for those of you who don't know me, I run the marketing at NewsCred, and I've been with the company for almost 4 years. And when I first joined, we were a very, very tiny startup. So we literally started from the bottom. I joined when we were about 5 people. We had no marketing team, no marketing strategy, and we certainly didn't have any content. But I think there's a big difference in the sense that unlike other startups, we were actually a content marketing software company. And so we really had to prove to ourselves and to our customers that we were really great at content marketing. Because if we weren't leading the pack and we weren't being really innovative with our strategies, how could we ever expect our customers to be as well? So we really had to not only eat our own dog food, we really had to prove out and prove ROI. So over the course of the last 3 years, we've really grown a lot. I mean, we've moved from 5 people to over 200 with 3 global offices. We now have over 100,000 followers on Twitter, and we have 65,000 subscribers to our newsletter. And I think as I go through this case study, I think there's one really important thing that I want to note is that it's actually not me really doing this work. It's the fact that I have an amazing, amazing team. So led by our managing editor, Amber, and Alexa, who runs our social. So the 2 of them are really the driving force behind our creativity as a company in building out our content strategy, as well as the execution. One of the biggest things besides scaling our content is the fact that we're able to prove that our strategy is actually delivering real revenue to the business. So in 2014 alone, our content directly influenced over $72 million in customer lifetime value in 2014. And more so, 90% of our deals touch at least one piece of our content. So at NewsCred, we are very, very metrics obsessed. We want to make sure that as a marketing team, we're not just building out, a great marketing strategy, being really creative, but we're actually making a real tangible impact on the business. So just last year, NewsCred's marketing team on a first touch basis drove over 35% of our revenue. And overall, every single customer has engaged with at least 2 or more pieces of content. So going into it, and really the question of today is, how are we actually making all of this happen? And today I'm going to go through 4 key themes. The first is the challenges that we faced as an organization and what we were doing to overcome them. Second, our goals and approach. Third, how we built out our newsroom, so really how we built out our content production process and connected that to data so that we can ultimately prove ROI. And then lastly, the results of our efforts. So again, being able to connect the dots and prove both brand awareness, conversions, leads, and then ultimately more deals. And a lot of the stuff that I'm going to go through today, while I'm looking at it from the lens of NewsCred, these same tactics and strategies are really relevant for enterprise global brands as well. So at NewsCred, we work with over 300 enterprise brands. They range from Diageo, Dell, Pfizer, Pepsi, Spotify, and a lot of them are using these same tactics, whether they're advanced content marketers or beginning content marketers, to help to think about how they're scaling their strategies as well. So for all of those in the audience, if you guys are a small startup or you're a big company, I think you'll be able to get a lot of good takeaways from this. So going into our challenges, the biggest thing as a marketing technology company, which is what NewsCred is that we were amidst a really, really crowded landscape. So in this landscape, if you look at the 2014 Lumascape, there are over 1,700 marketing technology companies out there. And the biggest question for us is that, how are we going to stand out? While we think that we are an incredibly innovative content marketing platform, there are so many other marketing tech companies out there, and we need to do something different. Even more, a lot of the companies out there in our ecosystem, they look the same, they feel the same, they talk the same. And if you're in our industry as a professional, the differences between all the companies feel very much very, very clear. But if you are a consumer or a buyer, so for example, say you're the CMO of a big enterprise company, it really is hard to differentiate between all the different companies out there. So it's our challenge, and therefore probably our biggest opportunity, to do something way better, way more creative, way more strategic than the rest of the pack. And that's what we knew that we needed to do in order to survive, especially because we were a very small team and we need to be nimble and we need to be quick. The biggest thing I think that we realized is that we needed to stop marketing to brands. Now this might seem a little bit ironic because we're a B2B company, we sell to brands, that's absolutely our sweet spot. But there was a bit of a fundamental mind shift that we needed to have happen in order for us to really be successful at content marketing. And that's very simply just the fact that for all the brands that we market and sell to, we need to remember that there's real people behind those brands. There's people just like you or me. And that meant that as a company, we couldn't just talk about what we did and how we did it and pushed our products and services. We need to think really differently and actually think about how we can communicate our bigger brand purpose. How can we educate and entertain and inspire those individual people behind those brands who are really hungry to learn about what content marketing really is? And so we took a different approach to our marketing strategy. And these are really the three pillars that we stand on as a company. The first is that we don't put our brand first as a company, and this is the heart of content marketing. Instead, we really try to provide value every single day to our customers and to our prospects and to our audience. That means that we can't just push our products and services out, but we need to use marketing and content as a way to really better people's lives. Instead of investing in multi-million-dollar ad campaigns, frankly, we just didn't have that kind of money. We need to instead figure out how to build an always-on newsroom. Creating content iteratively, consistently, and building out our long-term strategy rather than blowing all of our budgets, on quarterly ad campaigns or Super Bowl ads, for example. And then lastly, this is probably the most important piece of our marketing strategy that is really my fundamental philosophy and how we approach things. It's that we don't want marketing to be thought of as a cost center. A lot of marketing departments, they have a terrible stereotype where people think they are the builders of beautiful websites or, very effective collateral or the supporters of the sales team. And while those things may be true, it's really important that we raise the level of what marketing teams are all about. We are actual revenue drivers for the company, and every single thing that we do needs to be able to connect our activities to the overall growth of our company in terms of actual business value. And I think a lot of the data out there in the industry supports these themes as well. So over the past 3 years, content marketing has absolutely exploded. And there's some real industry data that supports why you should be investing in it and its value. First of all, according to HubSpot, 79% of best-in-class B2B marketers rate blogs as the most effective customer acquisition tactic. Content marketing generates 3 times as many leads as traditional outbound marketing, but it costs 62% less. And 79% of companies that prioritize content marketing report a positive ROI. So it comes down to 3 things: the value of content marketing to drive customer growth, cost savings, and revenue. And if you can really prove these things out, there's no wonder why people are investing so much money, time, and resources in building out their strategy. So how did NewsCred do this? What was our goal and what was our approach? I think one of the first most important things when building out your content strategy is that you need to document it. That's one of the biggest failures of content marketers. They just try to create content, but they don't have a holistic view in terms of their end-to-end goal. And so at NewsCred, we really stress about starting with the end in mind. What is that end goal and end result that you want to achieve, and then work backwards in terms of building out your strategy. So in terms of our goals, the first question that we ask ourselves is our content reaching the right audience? Are we growing brand awareness with our target audience measured by growth in social followers, traffic, and social engagement? So very simply, we just want to understand, is our content working? And is it driving top of the funnel awareness? Secondly, are we reaching the right people? Are the right people engaging with our content? Are we growing the number of influencers and people who are meaningful to our sales team? So at NewsCred, we really believe that it's not just about reaching more people. It's not just about volume-based metrics. It's about reaching the right people. And within our company, as a B2B organization, we're trying to sell to marketing directors, very senior at Fortune 2000 companies. So we really work with a lot of global enterprise brands, and this, therefore, creates a very niche subset of the overall market that we're actually trying to reach. And so as we're growing our top of the funnel volume metrics, we want to make sure that simultaneously and in parallel, we're also growing the number of important people or marketing qualified leads that are actually meaningful to our sales team. Next, we want to understand if our content is converting. So we look at the total subscribers to our blog, subscribers that convert to leads, the percent of people that convert from our blog to our main website. And there's 2 just important notes here. The first is that we don't count subscribers as leads. So people who sign up for our newsletter are not counted as leads in our overall database. Instead, when they sign up for our newsletter, we actually require them, in order to count them as a lead, to either sign up for a sales contact form or download a piece of high-value content. So they need to engage with NewsCred in multiple ways before being qualified as an actual lead. The next piece is that we love to look at audience behavior. So the percent of people that convert from our blog to our main website, and these are things that are really easy to set up through Google Events and using Google Analytics, or if you have a marketing technology company and software like NewsCred, and using our software. And then next, is our content driving the business forward? And so this is the money question, obviously. We ask ourselves, how many blog subscribes convert to actual leads, and how does this trend over time? So week over week and month over month. What is the conversion rate? Looking at from the first touch with a piece of content all the way through the entire funnel. And then for every sales deal and customer, how many and which pieces of content influence the customer journey? Because this is where we want to put more resources and build more around those customer pain points and those topics. So these are the 4 questions that we like to ask ourselves. I think one important thing here is that we like to simplify this down into just simple questions. There's tons of metrics out there, whether it's impressions, social shares, time spent, brand lift, perception, lots of different metrics, but being able to tie that to your actual business objectives with very simple questions just helps us simplify the noise that's out there when it comes to data. And so when we look at this chart over here, I just want to point this out. It's just like being able to distinct and separate out metrics versus your KPIs versus your ROI. So when it comes to ROI, you're really not measuring ROI until you're understanding how efficiently your content and distribution is working to produce a desired result. And efficiency here is the value or revenue that you're getting, in comparison to the cost and the time and the resources that you're putting in. All right, so building out our newsroom. How did we make this all happen in terms of our content ideation, creation? How are we scaling it and working, really hard every single day to start to build this out? So I'm going to go through a few tactics and strategies that we've been learning over the course of, the last year and a half. The first is, just a frame of thinking. And it's that we believe that content is a connective thread of all marketing. And so all of our customers, they're taking a risk and they believe this as well. So content is not just another headcount that we hire. Content is absolutely not another, person within a social media department coming out of the social budget. We believe that content is a fuel for your entire marketing strategy. So that goes to email, newsletters, blogs, websites, landing pages, every single social channel out there. Content is a fuel for it all. And in the next 6 months to a year, I definitely believe that content is going to start to connect the entire organization together. Think about social selling and how your sales teams can be empowered to develop a better lead nurturing strategy by providing relevant content to their prospects. Or if you take the recruiting and HR department, for example, how you can build out a recruiting and employment brand with great quality content to attract people to your business, helping them understand, what you do and why you do it, and why your company and culture is really special. So content at NewsCred is the core of absolutely everything that we do, and it's the foundation of how we think about building out our marketing strategy and therefore spending our money and building out our teams. So along that mindset, we built our marketing team with content at the core. So at the core of our team, we have our content, our social, our brand team. And then around that, we have all of our distribution channels. So these are the demand generation activities, whether it's events or sponsored webinars or emails or newsletters, that enables us to push content out and thereby attract, more prospects, building brand awareness, and driving conversions down the funnel. So we kind of think of that like circular approach with content at the core of everything. So our team is comprised of our managing editor, Amber, our social strategist, Alexa, both of whom are absolutely amazing. We have 2 designers, so a designer and a front-end developer who absolutely works really, really hard to create beautiful content for us, whether that's white papers and landing pages or whether that's social assets. But definitely we believe that visual storytelling is incredibly important to set us apart from all the other tech companies out there. We work with a number of freelance writers. So we tap into our own freelance network, the NewsCred Newsroom, to be able to get great freelance writers who can help us create quality content and do that on a consistent basis. At NewsCred, we don't necessarily think that working with more writers is better. We want to build great relationships with the writers who work with us and have them work with us consistently so they really take pride and ownership in the work that they're doing. And then lastly, employee contributors. So we get people from all over the company to write content for us, to share their point of view and talk about, what's special about working at NewsCred or their thoughts on where the industry is going. We also manage everything on a single technology platform. So I'm not sure how many of you guys currently invest in content marketing software, but this has really, really helped us to make sense of all of the chaos. So previously, and a lot of our customers who work with us before they come to us, they're managing all of their content on Google Docs. Their editorial calendar is actually an Excel sheet. They're loading their assets onto FTP sites or Dropbox, and then they're sharing and managing all of their workflows on email. And so this is horribly inefficient, and we realize that the only way that we can scale is by using a centralized platform that enables us to manage our editorial calendars, manage all of our assets in one place, manage our workflows so that we can make sure that we're keeping track of all our freelance contributors and going back and forth on editing really easily. And then beyond that, beyond just the process management of it all, it's also really important for data collection. Ultimately, when we're trying to prove out revenue or trying to prove out conversions, if we don't have clean data from the very beginning, it's going to mess everything up. So we want to make sure that our systems and our data is connected, from our content marketing platform to our marketing automation, and then also to our Salesforce instance. So all of our technology platforms talk and connect with each other, and that ultimately enables us to seamlessly move data from point one all the way through the customer journey. Next, we believe in utilizing the right mix of content and then scaling it. So when we first started out, it was really hard for me as the sole marketing contributor to write all of our blog content as well as run our entire marketing operations. And even over the years, as we grew, more team members on our marketing team, being able to scale content was still very difficult given how much we all had going on. And I'm sure that's very much the same for all of you listening to this webinar. And so we take a diversified approach to how we think about our content production and how we're going to scale it. The first is our custom content, which is, content written by employees or by freelancers that allow us to share on-brand stories that are created specifically for our brand. Here's where we put a lot of our effort in terms of building out content around long-tail SEO keywords, as well as showcasing our culture, our personality, and our unique point of view. Next piece is licensed content. So this was absolutely critical and still is to scaling out our strategy. So a couple of things. First, NewsCred is the largest content marketplace for licensed content. We have over 5,000 different publishers in our network, and being able to tap into those publishers, so for the marketing team, publishers like Ad Age or Bloomberg or Business Insider or Forbes, it allows us to boost our credibility because our audience really trusts in those sources. It enables us to increase our publishing cadence, and it allows us to scale a direct traffic right back to our site. So the difference of licensed content versus aggregated content is that when you're tweeting a link out and it's aggregated, all those links drive to the third-party publisher's website. So you have to click out essentially, and you drive traffic away from your site. With licensed content, conversely, all of that traffic drives directly back to your owned property. And as a B2B marketer, I really want people to come back to my website because that's going to allow us to not only drive more engagement, but also drive more conversions. We've done a lot of studies around licensed content, and we found that across all of our customers, licensed and original content actually perform the same. They have the same amount of page views and sharing, but licensed content costs 40% less than original content. So we're not saying necessarily to do one or the other, but we feel that a diversified strategy will allow you to scale quickly and maintain quality. The last piece is social content. So we have a great community, and we like to leverage their point of view and their perspective. So leveraging snackable content through UGC or getting guest writers or community writers to be able to contribute to our blog is another strategy that we're starting to scale out now. Next is understanding what your audiences really want. So when we break this down into 3 different stages, early stage, middle stage, and then branded searches. Early stage searches are things that make your product possible. Middle stage searches are your product type. So for example, someone might be looking for who is the best content marketing provider. And then brand searches are people searching for NewsCred. I think what's important here is that these bubbles, the big blue bubble versus the purple and the green one, they should mirror how much time and effort you spend creating your content. So the goal is to map your content strategy and resources against the things your audience is looking for. And for the majority of that is the early stage searches. So when we build out our editorial strategy, we're going to look at 3 things. First is getting an understanding of what the wider world is searching for by leveraging search, social, and audience behavior insights. Secondly, we ask our customers. So our customers are our biggest champions, and we absolutely want to support them in everything that we do. So we ask our customers what their biggest pain points are. Our goal is to transform them into total rock stars. We want to make them successful, which means that we need to tailor a content strategy to their needs. So understanding what their pain points are gives you an entire list of blog posts that you can possibly be writing against. And then lastly, we map all of this against our company value proposition. So what are the things that we really want to be known for? We believe that content marketing is all about finding that intersection or that sweet spot between your company's purpose and your ambition. So what you stand for in the world versus what the world really needs. So what your audiences are actually looking for. And if you can find that sweet spot, you will absolutely excel. The next piece is mapping content against every stage of the buyer's journey. So as B2B marketers, many of you guys are obviously familiar with the funnel. We believe that scaling your content will enable you to build a better and more effective lead generation strategy at every step of the funnel. So the top of the funnel, it's all about quality, custom, and licensed content that's focused on helping answer our customers' challenges. And here again, we focus a lot on our long-tail SEO keywords to drive search traffic and social traffic to our brand. The next is high-value original resources. So if you go to newscred.com/academy, you'll see a lot of our white papers and our webinars and our high-value content that's useful and timely, but hits very specifically at really great depth on on our customers' pain points. We don't necessarily talk about our products in these at all. It's still purely about education, but these pieces ladder up to our bigger value proposition in terms of us being able to help our the marketers and our customers. Next, we take design very, very seriously at NewsCred. So as I said, we have a great designer on our team, amazing front-end developer, and their job is really to think about how they can push the boundary of what content marketing and design really is, especially with the marketing technology companies. The bar is actually quite low amidst like all the companies out there. So how can we get really creative? We build out a lot of interactive microsites. We think about gamification. We try to push the boundaries all the time of what a white paper really is or what it could be. And these same design principles apply to our landing pages as well. So this is one example of one of our landing pages. Very simple design tweaks to make it look just slightly better has resulted in actually a 43% conversion rate off of this landing page. And just for reference, the average standard conversion rate off a landing page is about 10%. So paying attention to design not only brings creativity and credibility to your brand, but it also results in conversions. Now thinking about the results of our efforts. So first of all, we know that newsletters are absolutely vital for identifying trends and takeaways. I'm going to go through a whole bunch of distribution tactics, including LinkedIn in this section. But starting out with our newsletters, I think this is really important in the sense that I believe that our newsletter is actually our best distribution channel, and I might even argue that it's our best social channel as well. So here with our newsletter, we have over 65,000 subscribers. We A/B test every single newsletter that goes out. So that's 3 times a week a newsletter goes out. Every single one gets A/B tested. Whether it's the headline, whether it's the image, it's the format, it's how much copy we put into it. And we've learned a lot because this helps to inform our overall content strategy and what we actually should be writing about. So some of the things that we've learned, the top 2 posts in 2014 were infographics. I guess that probably comes as no surprise. The BuzzFeed effect, that 4 out of our top 10 articles had headlines with the words top, best, and most. Knowing our audience is really critical. So 35% of our top 20 articles have the mention of content marketing or content marketers. We're trying to reach content marketers, and they're interested in coming to us and learning about one thing. Statistics matter. We invest a lot in quantitative studies, whether it's low cost using Google consumer surveys, or it's using the data from our software, or it's commissioning really high-end quantitative studies through external research parties. We try to put a lot of quantitative research into the posts that we write and into our white papers. And we also find that statistics matter in terms of headlines. So 70% of our top 10 articles have numbers in the headline too. And then lastly, brand names do really well. So I think many B2B brands who are listening, you obviously will know this, but when we put the words Vice, BuzzFeed, Nike, and Red Bull, those are some of the highest performing articles that we had in terms of headlines last year. We've also learned that there's a direct correlation between the amount of content that you're creating and publishing and your social interactions, sharing, and growth in followers. So the biggest thing here is that you really have to stick with it when you're in content marketing. It's an all-in game, and it's not about finding like huge drastic results after the first week or the first month. It's about looking for incremental growth week over week, month over month. And that's about discipline, increasing your cadence, and being consistent. So this chart here is a little bit out of date. We now have over 100,000 Twitter followers. When we're looking from January 14 to August 2014, we can see that originally we were creating 2 pieces of original content a week. And then by August, we were doing 2 original pieces of content a day. We started out by doing 7 tweets a day. And instead, we moved to 16 tweets a day, learning that our best engagement was actually at 11 p.m. And then out of this, only 3 of our tweets per day are max promotional. So just like understanding that the more that you put in, the greater volume in publishing that you have, the greater results that you will get. And this is pure organic results without any paid spend. On LinkedIn, so here I'm going to go through my commercial for LinkedIn. We are like huge supporters of the platform. So we've always been, the beta users and the beta testers of LinkedIn's products. And sponsored updates was one of the first products that we tried. I'm going to say it was in July of 2013 when we started building this strategy out. We've seen huge, huge success in everything that we do on LinkedIn, and it just makes us want to invest more and more in the platform because we know that we're not only reaching the right audience, but we're actually getting the results that we want. So on LinkedIn, we post about 2 times a day, 5 to 7 days per week. We have about 14,000 followers on LinkedIn now, and we find that high-value content works really, really well here. So these are the microsites that we build out, our white papers, all of our high-value educational content. We find that being authoritative is also really successful. So us having a point of view, having a personality, being real thought leaders around where we see the industry going, that works well because people are on LinkedIn not only just to search for a job, but they want to learn. They want to learn from each other, and they want to hear, from people who are taking risks and who are leading the pack. Through our work with LinkedIn, we've seen a lot of return and a lot of, and especially around LinkedIn sponsored updates. So we know that the quality on LinkedIn is absolutely fantastic. So 60% of the leads that we get from LinkedIn sponsored updates are marketing qualified leads versus other channels. For example, 20% are marketing qualified leads that come from Google AdWords. So we're looking at LinkedIn in terms of, the cost and the revenue that we get out of it. We also compared LinkedIn to all of our other marketing channels. We just want to set a benchmark ourselves, channel by channel, what's working the most effectively for specific content. So we look at cost. LinkedIn sponsored updates has a 20% lower cost per name generated than native advertising and 75% less than Google AdWords. So definitely something to get you thinking about in terms of where you guys are putting your money. In terms of ROI, every dollar invested in LinkedIn sponsored updates yields more than $17 in revenue, which is almost 6 times the ROI of AdWords. And here I think this is the most exciting piece of news, is that our unsponsored posts, so our organic posts, now receive 4.2 times more views than they did originally. So indicating that there's a direct relationship between your advertising investment and your organic reach and brand recognition. We also find that it's really important to connect our top of the funnel activities, for example, on LinkedIn, with a targeted demand generation strategy across the pipeline. So here we use our software to understand exactly who is engaging with our content at every step of the customer journey. So we understand the most important people engaging with our brand, who they are, where they work, titles, and influence. We understand, there's a lot of metrics out there, whether it's clicks or open rates or page views, but none of those metrics really tell you, who are the real people interacting with your content, and do they actually matter to your brand? Those 2 questions are really important to be able to connect your content marketing activities and your tactics to actual conversion so you can do something about it and arm your sales team. At the same time, we want to be able to answer all these questions for our competitors as well. So through our platform, we're able to understand how influencers are engaging with our competitors' content just as much as we can understand our own. So moving on for this same example, here understanding, once you understand who's engaging with your content, you can then understand, okay, of those influencers, what does their content journey look like? And so understanding whether it's for yourself or for a competitor, being able to map, the content journey from the moment they first interact with your brand all the way through the bottom of the funnel to understand what topics interest them, what they share, what channels they frequent, and this allows you to then start to map your content marketing strategy against different stages of the funnel with real data, not just, a gut check that you might want to be able to implement. One example here, using our own software, we're able to understand, one guy tweeted something out from a competitor. Given the data that we had, we were able to understand who he was. And he had never filled out a form on the NewsCred site. He was really just, interacting with content via social. So understanding who he was, we then sent him through a demand generation team. We sent him like a packet of white papers that were printed. We sent him a handwritten note from our CEO and a bunch of chocolates, like all in a nice gift wrap box. And it allowed us actually to capture that prospect that was engaging with competitor and turn them into a prospect for NewsCred. And so this is just one example of being able to capture the customers that you didn't even know you had before the funnel, and then build out a smarter social selling strategy against that. All right, so let's talk about some of the results. First of all, by increasing our content production, I touched on this briefly, our traffic jumped in a big way. So before April 2014, we were posting 1 original and 5 licensed posts a week. And then after that, we posted 5 original and 5 licensed posts a week. So in that time, traffic leapt 49% in April 2014. And this includes no increase in promotion or distribution spend. Ongoing, month over month, that number increases and continues to grow 25%. And so this is really important, again, to hit on the fact that building out that content marketing machine drives long-term results. You just have to look at it, week over week, month over month as an iterative strategy, much more of an agile strategy than traditional advertising. We've also learned that social sharing drove increases in reach and engagement. So before, we were posting 2 to 5 new articles per week across social channels, and then we started posting 2 new articles and 20 recycled articles per day. And so at first when we started this, I was a little bit worried that if we kept posting the same piece of content over and over and over again across our channels. But when you think about how consumers are engaging with your streams and feeds, they're not necessarily going onto newscred.com and our Twitter profile and scrolling down the entire feed. No, they're interacting with NewsCred at the moment they log on to Twitter, onto their own profile. And so you need to be there at the moment that they need you or they're interested. So this was a really big push for why we should be, creating more evergreen content and then repurposing our evergreen content. Here we saw a 60% jump in social traffic and 2.6 times increase in social sharing as well. Our social ad spend also directly is related to reach and engagement. So this might seem pretty obvious. With in 2014, April's boost of blog post cadence by 2x and social publishing by 5x, both our reach and our social shares increased by 49% and 170% respectively. And this was without actually increasing spend or promoting content through paid advertising. But overall, we have seen that reach generally increases in step with spend, while social sharing increases with spend, but with a slight lag. So thinking about how this actually translates into conversions, taking all of this data, we found that we've seen a 30% increase in blog subscribes and a 50% decrease of our normal MQL costs. So increase in conversions, decrease in cost, that's a pretty valid argument for why you need to invest in content marketing for sure. So as I was saying earlier, our blog is only one part of our overall content marketing strategy. We believe that it's not just about more blog articles and driving conversions off of subscribes. We want people to be really engaged throughout the entire funnel. We need to be able to prove that our content marketing efforts are increasing the velocity and the speed of those leads driving through the funnel. So on average, one white paper drives over 2,000 leads, 20% of which are in our target demographic, and that drives over 3 opportunities. So for us is to remember that our target demographic is a marketing director or above at a company with over $700 million in annual revenue. So we're targeting large enterprise brands, and when we convert to an opportunity, those leads have to have the budget, the authority, the need, and the time for a NewsCred. So they need to actively be interested in buying NewsCred. And so this is how we start to link, one piece of content through to the actual opportunities that we're developing. When you include costs around paid distribution, the ROI for one of our white papers is nearly 800%. So that's about $8 back for every $1 that we put in. And a lot of this is due to syncing our editorial strategy with our overall demand generation strategy. So with a single piece of content, we are blasting that content everywhere, across emails, webinars, in-house and sponsored, native advertising, events, paid social advertising, SEM and SEO, and then also through emails, whether it's newsletters or internal emails to equip our sales team to be better social sellers. And so this diversified distribution strategy has really helped us, one, get a little bit more leverage and bang for our buck for a single piece of content, but also make sure that we're reaching our audiences wherever they are, no matter what channel, what device, and what market. So thinking about how we are tracking ROI. So we use 3 different systems at NewsCred. We use our own software, obviously, and we use our own software to manage the creation, the ideation, sourcing, workflows, governance, social publishing, web publishing, and measurement across the entire marketing process. Because that whole process is in a single centralized platform, all of that data lives within our software as well, and then connects to our marketing automation platform, which happens to be Marketo. Marketo obviously connects to Salesforce, and the 3 technologies all talk to each other. And this enables us to be able to track the entire funnel and our content effectiveness from the beginning to the end. Every single piece of content has a UTM parameter. This is pretty basic, but if you guys aren't doing it, you definitely should. And then for every piece of content, we also treat them as campaigns. So we track the total cost and we track the number of leads for all of the content. And then we segment this out into 2 different views. So we look at each of our channels, whether it's emails or LinkedIn or webinar, and then we look at the ROI off of the channel, and then we do the same analysis for the ROI off of a piece of content. Ultimately, when we take a step back and think about, what all of this is doing, we want to make sure that we're measuring everything and ultimately proving revenue growth. So we look at our revenue, the number of deals closed, our monthly revenue, our MRR per customer. We look at our costs, and most importantly, we understand the value. So as a SaaS company, we look at the lifetime value over our customer acquisition cost. We're always aiming for a ratio above 3. And when we think about customer acquisition cost, we're factoring in all of our overhead expenses as well. So all of our salaries and the sales team salaries, so we can get an accurate picture of not just the content creation and production, but also of the overhead too. All right, so we're getting near the end here. Thank you guys for being so patient and listening as we go through this. One thing that we've learned is that leads that have engaged with our content are twice as likely to accept a meeting with us. And then once I turn into a client, this is my favorite part of the presentation, client engagement with content equals loyalty and renewals. So those clients have a 41% higher renewal rate. 33% of those are more likely to be upsold, and companies that engage with our content have a 24% higher MRR than average, than our other customers. So here, I think it's really exciting to be able to take a step back and realize that the marketing team and our content marketing efforts have an impact not just on top of the funnel growth and conversions and blog subscribes, but also in the retention and the happiness of our customers in the long term too. And then lastly, ending with what we began with, our content directly influenced over 17 million in customer lifetime value in 2014. So if you guys want to learn how to apply similar strategies for your brand, we would obviously love to help. I know a really good content marketing platform to help you do that. Our whole goal as a company is to help marketers create content that people love. We help to do that, not only through simplifying and scaling your entire content marketing operations, but we also have to do that by enabling you and empowering you to stay accountable. So really proving the ROI of your efforts by creating the right piece of content for the right person, for the right place, at the right time. We work with a number of awesome brands, ranging from Pepsi to Microsoft, Diageo, Pfizer, P&G, Fidelity, really spanning both B2B and B2C, and we really specialize in a lot of global enterprise solutions, helping marketers scale their content marketing across local markets, agencies, teams, or brands. And I think that is it. So I would love to open up for questions. Jamie, I'm not sure if you want to get started.
Yeah, definitely. So before we get to the questions, in my day-to-day working with our sales team and our clients, I preach best practices all day long. But what I love about everything that you covered in your presentation and everything that you guys are doing right and measuring is I have a whole list of best practices, like kind of what is NewsCred doing right that is making you guys so effective that other people can learn from. So I'm going to go through my list really quickly, and then I'll start with questions. But the first is visual. You guys sometimes present that the average online attention span in America is 8 seconds, which means that you have 8 seconds to make an impression with a piece of content. So visual is a very important way to do that. The second is A/B testing. I know so many companies that don't have the time or resource or don't dedicate the time or resource to doing that, but we know that the return on that can be phenomenal. The third is top funnel search terms and content. You talked about the fact that the volume of content that you create and license and share for top of funnel is directly correlated to the number of searches. So many companies that I work with will only pay to promote gated content, and they really only invest in content that they can gate because they think that's where their only value is going to come from. That you guys prove that that's not the case, and that you really need to think about the whole buyer's journey and putting content out there that satisfies every need. And you guys use employee contributors. Michael Brenner is a great thought leader, did great work at SAP, has a lot of value to offer. So do many of your employees, and that definitely helps to contribute not just to the volume that you can put out there, but the quality of what you're saying, and it serves as the voice of the company. Okay, I'm going to stop there because there are a lot of other best practices. But we have 12 minutes to talk about questions. So I'm going to go ahead and start with Vera's, and that is, which CMS platform is NewsCred using, or is it proprietary?
Sorry, say that one more time.
Which CMS platform is NewsCred using, or is it your own proprietary platform?
So yeah, I actually was just looking through the questions, and there was a couple about this. The CMS platform that we're using is NewsCred's own CMS, but we integrate with any CMS out there, particularly WordPress. Someone also asked, what system are you using to manage content? And that system is NewsCred. So we are a content marketing software company, and so we're obviously using all of our own tools and our own software to help to manage everything.
And then another one is from Derek. We have ideas of what our customers want to hear, but how do you really know that you're on the right track?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I think you can look at this in three ways. One, you should just ask your customers. So you can send out like a very simple survey, asking your customers like what are their biggest pain points, what frustrates them. You can also ask your client services team to pull up a list of the most frequently asked questions, whether it's about your product or about how to build out their strategy using it. So that's the first thing. Simply ask your customers. Second, mining social data insights. So understanding, mining insights off of LinkedIn, off of Twitter, off of Facebook to understand what people are actually sharing. And that gives you a really good insight into what you should be writing about. Because the more people are sharing about a given topic, the more that's going to be relevant to your overall content strategy. And that's where it's important, I think, obviously using the NewsCred platform to be able to pull out the influencers who are sharing content. So you're just looking at a subset of the total volume of people, and you're not looking at everybody. And then the last piece is search. So Jamie, as you just mentioned, search is incredibly important to be able to understand what people are actually looking for. And so that's where you want to invest in long tail keywords to understand, and you can do this through Google Keyword Planner, SEO Moz, through a content marketing software platform, through any number of tools, so you'll understand what people are searching for.
Great. And then Kendra asked, when you say that you do 3 sponsored posts per day, does that mean 3 different sponsors per day? And are there rules for sponsored posts that you follow on Facebook, Twitter, etc.?
Yeah, so we have like a very different strategy for our social advertising for LinkedIn versus Twitter versus Facebook. And we're actually very careful about that. So on LinkedIn, we leverage sponsored updates, and we do 3 a day. We do a ton of A/B testing. We do it against our gated content, so our white papers and our webinars, as well as actual physical events and blog posts. And so the strategy there is, we put our spend into it, but we're constantly measuring, for the dollars that we put in, how many leads are we getting, and then we take it a step further to understand how many marketing qualified leads we're getting. So marketing qualified leads is a subset of the total number of names that we get that are actually people who matter to our sales team. On Twitter, it's very targeted still, but it's a little bit less effective in terms of driving marketing qualified leads. So Twitter is much more about, driving traffic to our blog, getting blog subscribes. So we use a lot of demand gen cards on Twitter to drive blog subscribes. And then, those are actually those two main topics. And then on Facebook, we promote a lot of our culture stuff there. So sometimes we'll boost, if we have an event, for example, going on in one of our offices, we might boost that on Facebook and do a lookalike strategy. We also use that to actually share a lot of our high-performing blog content, because the more traffic that you have on some of those pieces, especially if they're driven for SEO, the greater that they're going to show up in terms of results on your page ranking.
Great. Andrew asks, how are you defining a lead? Is it someone who signs up for emails or someone that sales is actually talking to about buying your service?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we think of, there's a couple of things. First of all, a blog subscribe, we do not count that as a lead. So those are people who share an email address with us and subscribe to our newsletter. That's at the very, very top of the funnel. They become a lead once they actually fill out a more substantial form. So it can be two types of forms. One would be, a form to get a higher value content. So they're filling out their job, their name, their title, where they work, and then we use Reachforce, or you guys can use Demandbase too, to be able to append that with data to be able to score those leads in your marketing automation system. Out of that total volume of leads, we then look for marketing qualified leads. So it's a smaller subset, about 20% of the total pie, that essentially are people who are going to be relevant to our sales team. So they've either inbounded and asked to be engaging with NewsCred or asked to talk to our sales team, and they're directly interested in learning more. And that's where the marketing qualified lead comes in.
Excellent. There's one down at the bottom of this list from Sharon Wu, which I get a lot. What's your approach on gated versus ungated content, and does it depend on where it is in the funnel?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I would love to hear your perspective too, Jamie. So we're actually trying to do a lot more ungated content. And so a lot of the interactive microsites, I shared the visual storytelling microsite, for example. For a really long time, that was ungated. And it's because we want to promote brand awareness, and we don't necessarily want to make every single customer or user who interacts with NewsCred, they don't have to always fill out a form. So we want to provide, if the end goal is to provide as much value to our customers as possible, that means that we need to have the right mix. And so we are weighting more towards ungated content, but typically our blog is completely ungated. Some of our more visual and interactive microsites and infographics, those are all ungated. All of our slide shares are ungated. And then when it comes to our webinars and our really high value pieces of content, our white papers, those are gated. And when I talk about a white paper, we take between at least 6 to 9 weeks to write some of our white papers, because we put a ton of thought, quantitative research, and a lot of strategy into building those out. And so we feel that for the value, it's absolutely worth to have somebody fill out a form.
Yeah, I agree. I'm seeing a big trend towards more ungated content, especially at the top of the funnel, like you mentioned, for two reasons. One, there's a ton of content promotion happening out there, so it's a very cluttered marketplace. And the worst user experience is to see something from a company that you've never heard of that interests you, and to click on it and to get a form in your face when you don't even know who the company is or what value they're going to provide. So the more you can start with proprietary content or licensed content on your own sites or on your own properties, not gate it, but then nurture those people through LinkedIn Lead Accelerator or through retargeting or through another method, and then capture that name or that lead later, the better those programs are performing. We had a client speak at a roadshow that said that what they did in order to increase the quality of their leads was they would put a really very valuable long-form piece of content out there. They would promote it organically and through sponsored methods, and they wouldn't gate it at all. So people could actually get a ton of research and value without providing any information. And then either on the right rail for desktop or below that article on mobile, they would put, here's more content that you might be interested in. They would gate that content. And what they found was the quality of leads that they were getting was astronomically higher. I think 70 to 90% of their leads that they got through that method were director and above, and they couldn't believe it. So they're starting to take that approach as well.
Amazing. I'm just going to go through a couple of other questions. One question, does NewsCred come up with the strategy and content for a company? Yes, we have like a full strategy team led by Michael Brenner. He was kind of a total rock star. Look him up on Twitter. He was a content marketer of the year. He ran content marketing for SAP, and he runs our entire strategy team. So yes, we absolutely do that. I believe we do integrate with Jive. That was another question from Damon. Kara asked, do we offer services to track content marketing already being done? Yes, we do. So our software, obviously end-to-end, part of it is content production and workflows. The analytics piece of it, though, runs throughout.
Excellent. We have 2 minutes left before the top of the hour. One more question, do you integrate with Microsoft Dynamics?
I actually am not sure, so I'll have to find that out.
Great.
But I will find that out.
The handles are at NewsCred and at JamieLynn09. And for Twitter follow-ups, and the hashtag is LinkedIn content.
So thank you, everybody, for taking the time out of your day to listen and to share some of these great questions. And thank you, Jamie and LinkedIn, for having me. It was awesome.
Happy to have you. Thank you so much for sharing all of the work that you guys are doing. Glad you're seeing results. And we look forward to speaking to or hearing from everybody again soon.
Thank you.
Have a great one. Bye.